Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Leanne Gusty, and I am the Event Marketing Manager here at Utopia, and I will be moderating the call today. Today, we're going to discuss several best practices to minimize your risk, cost, and time of your data migration. Our presenter today is Jeff Knott, Utopia's Director of Solutions. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please enter them in the question box in our side panel and we will address them at the end. And with that, please welcome Jeff Knott.
Thank you, Leanne. This morning, as I was preparing for this webinar, I was starting to think back about how long I've actually been dealing with data migrations and data quality and such. And I realized I started my career as a programmer for a data quality company, data processing company back in 1989. Since that time, I've worked with just about every ETL tool, extract, transform, and load tool that's on the market. I've worked with or for most of the major data quality companies. So I've been doing this for much longer than I care to admit, but I just did that. So with that, we want to talk about today our data migrations options to S/4HANA and how do you get there. So you've likely chosen SAP's S/4HANA because it offers simplified data models or the built-in analytics, so there's no need for a separate data mart. The agility in application development, which gives you reduced time to market, or the market-leading innovation in data storage, movement, and speed. So how do I most quickly leverage my new investments? Well, there's a lot to think about when your company's migrating to SAP's S/4HANA. And there's no shortage of questions from the various stakeholders in your organization. Questions like, how do I get my data into the system? What files or formats are required? Are there any templates or formats that we need to use especially? What tools do we need and what resources do we need to provide? How long will it take and what does our roadmap look like? And can that be accelerated? Today, we're going to try to address that, many of these questions in this time frame. So it really depends on where your journey starts. This is a slide from SAP that provides the different scenarios for migrating to an S/4HANA system. If you look at the bottom two, the system conversion and landscape transformation, these are two migrations that are mostly database type migrations, meaning you already have a HANA system that you're on and you're going to either consolidate that HANA system or that you are currently on SAP's business suite for HANA and you want to move that to S4. These don't require your traditional type of data migration methodologies and tools because they're actually just moving from one database platform to another, and your basis team typically handles that. Now we'll go look at this first one called a new implementation. The new implementation of SAP S/4HANA is customers who are migrating from either a non-SAP legacy system, Oracle, Maximo, PeopleSoft, any of those other ERP type systems, or from an SAP ERP system and implementing a fresh system. So from an SAP ERP system being not a HANA system. So if you're coming from SAP or anything else and you're going on to HANA, SAP tells you that the database migration, standard database migration and tools and content must be used. So what are those? Well, let's talk about data migration. The goal is not simply to move data from one system or format to another. You need to ensure that the migrated data is of high quality, it's fit for use, and it supports the underlying business processes and the operational goals for your organization. Our experience with over 150 successful data migrations in SAP environments has taught us a few things. We've learned that many SIs will focus on the implementation of the system and its integrations first, and then address the large-scale data migration project much later. Maybe even at the end, after the entire implementation plan has been designed. At Utopia, we choose to put your data first, because when you're migrating from a non-SAP legacy system or from an SAP ERP system and implementing HANA, your master and transactional data must be migrated from that legacy system into the new environment. And with that comes a wealth of things to consider and plan for processes around. As you can see on my slide, data migration is one of the biggest risks to a new system implementation. 38% of data migrations fail due to a lack of understanding of the source and target systems and/or poor planning and execution by the project teams. A failed data migration as part of your SAP S/4HANA implementation means you'll get decreased value of the powerful business platform because it's only as good as the data enabling it. But there are other risks for a poorly executed data migration. There's lost time, reduced employee efficiency because time spent managing and maintaining inaccurate and incomplete data instead of using clean, trustworthy data to drive your insights and analytics, which is the whole reason you bought the system. Data issues are often addressed by adding more resources, additional project time, which causes increased budget and employee hours. Data loss can result in potential revenue loss or compliancy and regulatory impact. These risks become reality when data migration is treated as a secondary priority during the move to S4. At Utopia, our goal in data migration projects is not simply to move the data from one system or format to another. That can be done by anyone. We ensure that the data that's migrated is high quality, it's fit for use, and it supports the underlying business processes and operational goals of your organization. When we put data first, we're really looking at the long-term potential of what data enables. To do that, we focus on connecting people, process, and technologies that influence and impact the data deliverables and initiatives. In your organization, you probably have data stakeholders who have different views on what the business goals are. You have IT, who worries more about installation and maintenance of the application. And then you have the business subject matter experts, essentially those people who understand the rules in place for data creation, but cannot write them. And maybe IT can move the data, but hasn't been briefed on the long-term priorities for what value is expected to be extracted from the data. This combined with the team that is going to guide and collaborate you through the data migration process. This is the people component. At Utopia, we're innovators in the process realm as well. We have a library of over 400 templates and accelerators for data migration. We publish data quality dashboards so that those business SMEs and those key stakeholders can not only monitor the process, but they can become part of the migration process. There will be data exceptions and issues that need to be dealt with and decisions that have to be made. So such as do you use a batch process to clean up a lot of things, or do you need a functional expert to go in and manually fix it? Then there's the technology. We need mapping tools, data cleansing tools. They're designated to manipulate and create fit use for data. Utopia's approach and suite of tools for data migration is based on a framework of Utopia intellectual property, including those 400 templates and accelerators for tools like the SAP Data Services Platform and its rapid data migration methodology, as well as Information Steward, Agile data preparation, smart data quality, smart data integration, etc. These are the new S/4HANA tools that are used for migration. Now, we build these solutions in combination with a step-by-step process to be able to offer a holistic roadmap for an end-to-end data migration. So that step-by-step roadmap process mimics the SAP Activate methodology, which is a modular and agile framework for implementation or migration to SAP S/4HANA. The business impact will be significant when proper data management is not applied to a data migration process. This is why we start with the data preparation and planning you see there in the first box. Without an understanding of the business processes and the considerations of how the data will be used, you'll likely be replicating suboptimal data in your new system. During any data migration effort, we put your data through a quality assessment and remediation. This is the process we refer to as build, fix, and sustain, which I'll talk about soon. So we're profiling, modeling, mapping data fields, and analyzing to determine the health of your data before we start and where there are opportunities for the data to be improved. And as a result of this, then we clean and validate the data, essentially fixing it at the source. Then we load and reconcile your data into the new system, leverage end-to-end data governance strategies and best practices to ensure the data loaded is clean and can be maintained, and processes and rules are in place to keep it that way. I mentioned our build, fix, and sustain methodology. Essentially, this is the process we go through in any project, but most definitely in our data migration. So we have internationally recognized standards for things such as MRO parts and equipment, et cetera. Think of data dictionaries that are used in most tools for people and things. We understand how to break apart materials and such, just like we do first, middle, and last name for people. We include business rules and enterprise taxonomy, so we can output your data. Once we parse it and break it apart and understand it and enhance it, then we can put it back together in whatever taxonomy you choose. We have a data quality culture, which means no matter what type of the data it is, especially the master data, we ensure that that data is clean and fit for its use and standards. So we take those standards and such that we've built and we use that to fix it. We use the data quality improvement. We use data quality monitoring, put dashboards on the data before, during, and after the process. Before, so as we mentioned, so you can figure out what your issues are with the data. During, so that the key stakeholders can watch what's going on with the IT and the data migration teams. They can see how close the data is ready to be loaded into their new system. They can step in and help where necessary or help adjust the schedule. And then once you've migrated your data, you want to continue to look at that with data quality monitoring afterwards, because you're letting your employees loose on this new data system and they're putting data in, and you need to ensure that that data continues to be of high quality. So monitoring afterwards continues that you have that high quality of data and can step in when necessary. The deduplication of data to make sure that when we do put our materials or our equipment or our business partners into our S4 system, that we're putting unique records and master data. And if we have built a best record prior to that, so that we know everything about those people, places, and things before we put them in our system. We may have to do that by looking through unstructured data and find things from bombs, to find things from business drawings and mechanical drawings and such. So there's unstructured data that might have to be pulled together to enhance that data. So once you're done with all that, you've loaded your system. Sustaining that means going forward so that you don't have to call a company like Utopia to come back every 2 years and clean your data, because data does age. People touch it, they put wrong things in if you don't have rules in place. So for the sustainment of that, we talk about our MDG implementation, which is Master Data Governance. Master Data Governance is a product from SAP that sits on top of the ERP system that enforces rules and standards as data is entered. It's a workflow process. So if I'm the person entering in the data, before I can commit it to the database, somebody that's my approver has to look at the data and ensure that I've done it properly. This makes sure that the data goes in properly. It also has the ability to call out to tools to make sure that there's no duplicate data already in your database. So it uses fuzzy logic algorithms into your database to make sure I'm not entering a duplicate business partner or material, equipment, etc. We have something called DQR implementation. That's called data quality remediation. Before, I mentioned a tool called Information Steward, which is a profiling tool. There's an integration with this profiling tool with your master data governance implementation, which means that you can use the profiling tool, look at your data, find fields that you may want to govern, find out what the impact of governing those are, and then once you decide to govern them, you can use the Information Steward tool through data quality remediation and push that data into MDG as a workflow to be corrected and entered into the system. And then an overall data governance organization. We offer something called Enterprise Data Lifecycle Management, where we come in and do an assessment of your people, processes, and technology. We tell you where you are today. We talk about where you want to be, and then we tell you how to get there in a phased roadmap. So SAP provides some methodologies, and Utopia actually adds upon those methodologies. One of those we talked about here is this data quality remediation. It shows you a dashboard from inside of master data governance, but if you look at these rules, you'll see that there are the red rules for accuracy and completeness, etc. You can view the failed data, and you can select that data and push that data into a workflow into MDG, right from Information Steward. So what this does is this allows the subject matter expert, which typically cannot change data, but the ability to give a mass amount of changes and push it over into the system so that the person that actually changes the data can do so, and then the person that needs to can approve that. As I mentioned, during the data migration process, we provide dashboards that show what's going on to the business. So the business can see, for the most part, the data in this migration project. This is the material object. It looks like it's just about ready to be loaded. There are a few more exceptions or anomalies that need to be dealt with. And so once those are dealt with, all of these dashboards will be green. That means the data is actually ready to go live into the system, and it will all load. There will be exceptions. There will be issues to deal with along the way. One way to handle those, or we load those exceptions into SAP's Information Steward application that allows a data person to go in and actually fix the data. And then this actually allows us to track who did it and when they did it and how many they've done. So it gives you some administrative capabilities to track that as well. Finally, we also provide extensions to the rapid data migration content that SAP provides. They provide a number of objects out of the box that they give, but there are hundreds of objects in the SAP system. So we extend those to the objects that they haven't provided, and they mimic their rules exactly. So what are some of the things you can do to avoid data migration risks? What are the biggest risks resulting from failed data migration? Well, you have decreased value of a powerful business platform. You bought this platform for its robustness and its ability to crunch data quickly and give you answers, but if your data is bad, your answers are going to be bad because your reports and metrics are only as good as the data that's driving them. You'll end up with lost time and reduced employee resource efficiency. They're going to be managing in data and exceptions instead of doing their job and looking for the insights and clean data. This is clearly going to increase your cost because you're going to have to do more work after the fact that you didn't budget for. Your solution may be inoperable. If you don't get the right data in there and you can't have any insights to your business, you can't make good decisions. And so data loss and corruption, again, all of these things, and a key one for anybody in a compliance industry, you can't sign off on your data if you know it's not right. So why us? Why Utopia? Well, we've done more data migration to SAP environments than any other SAP partner and system integrator. We're an SAP AIM and data migration partner, and we have expertise from over 150 projects, 15 years plus as a leader in data migration to SAP environments. We've got over 250 industry practitioners in a global center of excellence doing data cleansing, data migration, and building out our intellectual property to support these solutions. We have a best-in-class data migration toolset. Helps us to reduce the complexity of data migration projects, and it minimizes the risk due to inaccurate, irrelevant data. We do this because we have accelerators and best practices libraries. We've learned a lot over this 15 years, and we've institutionalized that knowledge, and we provide it to our consultants to use on every project we do. So data migration is one of the biggest risks to a new system. You spend a lot of money on that SAP S/4HANA system, and you need it to be right. Let us help you with that. I'll take questions now.
Okay, we do have a question here, Jeff. First question is, how does Utopia's approach to data migration differ from SAP's Migration Cockpit for rapid data migration to S4?
Our approach doesn't differ at all. We utilize SAP tools in whatever form the customer has. If you have data services and information steward, we use that. If you have Migration Cockpit, we will use that. Migration Cockpit actually mimics the one thing I mentioned briefly was the rapid data migration content. That content's been around for many years, and those best practices have been now institutionalized into Migration Cockpit. We have also built templates so that no matter what your data cleansing or data quality solution is, that we can write out into the proper template for Migration Cockpit and pick it up and load it from there.
Okay, great. Looks like one more question. If we engage someone such as Utopia for a migration, what is required from our company to support that?
Well, you know, I mentioned in a slide that people, process, and technology. People were first, okay, before you get to the process and technology. Your people in your company know your data and your business processes better than anybody in the world. We could never come in and think that we're going to be able to tell you how you do your job. You need to tell us. So you need stakeholders from each parts of the business that own the data, that want to see their data moved in a proper format and maybe even improved along the way. You need your IT folks to be part of this as well, because they're going to be supporting any data migration, whether a company like Utopia does it, or we teach you to do it, or we work together. And that's another key point here. We do data migrations in a multitude of ways. We can come in and do it for you as the technical part, and add the technical people and use your business practices and business processes along with your team, or we can work with your team and teach them along the way. There's a number of different methodologies we can do, but suffice to say, the key point here is that it is a team, and that team includes members of your organization as key players.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions? If nobody else has any questions, we'll go ahead and close it here. We wanted to thank you for joining our discussion. We hope you found this webinar useful. The recording will be available on our website later today. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.